I suppose we're ready. Okay, welcome all to the April 9th meeting of the Dudley Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners. I have to advise everyone that this meeting is being recorded, and we start every meeting in Dudley with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we've got acceptance of meeting minutes from March 19th and March 27th.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of March 19th, 2025 as written.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. And 27th?
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of the March 27th, 2025 meeting as written.
And,
Second, Mr. Chairman.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right, and the next thing is public hearing. The public hearing was posted for 6:30?
Yep.
Okay. So we can say that the public meeting is opening at 6:32, public hearing, to discuss our rate structure for the coming fiscal year. All right. Well, I think the best thing to do would be to start with recommendations based on our
Well,
budgets.
recommendation on water is no increase this year. While I am a proponent of reasonably raising rates responsibly every year to cover the increased costs, with a couple of things from last year, we had debt that came off that was fairly substantial, but along with, we had not a substantial decrease in usage, but you can see people were saving water, so it changed our numbers, what I can estimate what the next year is. That brought down some, so the idea of reducing the rates absolutely is not a good idea. We had the debt come off, and we also funded at $80,000 out of retained earnings, so we could give the relief of the tier one folks. So at this time, I would say status quo on the water.
Okay.
And also, the other reasoning would be, to be fair to most of, 90% of the people are water and sewer users, and we do have concerns on sewer rates. So this wouldn't be the time to just do a cost increase there. Also, what little we will probably gain a little bit into retained earnings. We have the pressure issue up in the Bates Road area, which could be substantial. We have a good retained earnings account right now, but if we have to use the Eagle Drive, we have to fund the actual engineering plan, if we want to go by how much it basically costs over there for the town. If we could pay that out of retained earnings and keep away from incurring more debt, it would be much more beneficial to us at this time.
Okay. All right, so the recommendation at this point is no increase on water.
No increase on water.
Yeah, we're going slow motion on that. That's just the thing we want to do, so, on that pressure.
Okay. All right, sewer.
Sewer, last year we chose not to raise rates. We had a shortfall of roughly $250,000 that we funded out of retained earnings. That shortfall didn't go away.
Excuse me.
Also, with the decrease in the usage and the estimate in the water use, we correlate over to the sewer side. So we're just slightly over that, plus the $100,000 that we're anticipating the increase in Webster's processing. So that puts us at 359, 800-ish shortfall. On the sheet, and there's extras up here if you guys want me to follow along with this. If we raised rates 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 10%, what it would do to our revenue. And you could, went all the way up to 10% combined after that, we thought about it. also gave the possible line items to reduce. And I don't know how you guys wanna fund it, because our retained earnings on the sewer side are at 512,000. Right over in the green. And we're gonna be pulling out 200,000 that that was miscorrectly put in as a warrant article, and it didn't come out correctly, so they couldn't process it. So that never came out in the fall town meeting. So now it has to come out in the spring town meeting to pay the engineering funds. So really, you can only look at that as $312,000 in retained earnings. So my suggestion would be fund half of the shortfall through an increase and half through retained earnings again, but that's also gonna leave us fairly thin for the projects coming up. And then hopefully we'll make a couple operational cuts or anything else there, but there's not a lot of room in any of those line items.
Mr.
What we
Chairman,
did find though, there is a I-9 article line item that still has $21,000 in it that we could use
Oh,
to, for that, fund out of this, leave $1 in it so we hold the line item, and fund for next year out of that, and pull that.
be careful, because we have a situation that I'm gonna be explaining in the superintendent's report that may have to have some action done, so, and I'll get into it when we get to that report.
Yeah, and/or we cut the capital, and we keep it to having to go to meetings if we have to do any big purchases. But then we're held by time constraints on town meetings and funding for and town lots.
Would you cut the capital by?
70,000.
what's the call?
Or leave $1 in it just to, so we hold the line item.
So
And
you're saying
you could
zero that out,
possibly-
basically?
You could cut metering, we'd have to slow down the meter replacements, which naturally will slow down, but because of the manpower and the way that went, we weren't able to do with the full replacements of our meter repair list. It kind of got, we were behind on it a little bit. But the thought is because the meters generate the revenue for the water and sewer. And for a period of time, about 10 years ago, sewer wasn't contributing to the meters, and water had the full burden of putting the meters in and the costs. If we cut that now, at some point, the sewer enterprise has to make that up to the water enterprise in some way, shape, or form. So it would be a thought that hopefully in a year or two, that we're reducing that down substantially, where we have most of our meters replaced. But there may be one year that sewer has to take on the burden and water gets the break. But that's a handshake agreement inside the board and between the two enterprises, which is the same thing, but they have to stay separate when we're voting on it.
Yeah, I'm not an advocate for kicking the can down the road.
That said, the other option is to be able to replenish the retained earnings, we'd have to run a little lean till the end of the year, so we're returning at least a little bit back in, whatever we're gonna be using out. And I haven't looked at the expenditure report today, so. Because that will only leave us with roughly $150,000 in return.
What was the 85 on operational expense that you put here on this?
That's the total of the amount on the line item.
Okay.
Yeah. Kind of this zero is not.
No, those are just where you.
Oh, where we could cut from.
Yeah, where you can cut from.
Oh, yeah, okay, I would
That's-
say you're proposing cutting it down to nothing.
So, no.
So how do we need to make up $360,000?
Yep.
Roughly.
feeling right now, in my opinion, is we raised rates, people started to conserve water, which they should, and so they can do their own finances, which adjusts what we can expect to come in, so therefore now we have to budget for that, so it's a little bit of a cycle for the time being, until we can settle into where we're at, an annual increase of a minor percentage here or there, just to keep up with costs.
Yeah. The Webster processing is just killing us.
Yes.
Do we know what the balance is to finish the mission system?
That, if we could order, also we found an article, one of the other articles, it has a, from 2015, that's been sitting out there for like 8,000 for alarming at stations, so I can grab that.
Yeah.
And then I would push and say that we have to do the mission systems by the end of the year, and we have to,
Meter.
Sewer would have to use their metering and monitoring line items completely on that. But that said, is I don't anticipate in buying another pallet this year of meters. And anything else remaining that we buy it at the end of this fiscal, so that will offset what we're gonna miss next year. Because a pallet right now of meters, which is only 144 meters, is 31 to 35,000
Yeah.
dollars.
So these increases by percent,
Percent.
that's for a year?
That's for a year. So if we raised it 7%, you'd get $107,000 roughly. And that would be, and that's how it's split between the base rate and the usage rate. So the base rate is a hard figure.
Right.
You know you're gonna get that.
That's per year, so that's divided by 4 quarters, so then you're gonna see,
Yeah, so
in that case, you'd see about, 4 quarters. you'd
on the
see
rate,
a
people
little
would
less than $2.
save more water and not use as much or whatever, and it may not come in. You'll fluctuate anywhere from
Yeah.
like 2 to 3% a year,
But
depending on
even
the
at
drought.
the 7%, we're still well over, from 110,000, rounded up, and we need 360.
Yeah, it's, unfortunately, it's looking at this time near the 10% rate, which would raise just the base rate, almost $11.
$2.68.
Although there's still 300,000 in retained earnings.
Yeah.
Well,
There's still 300,000 in retained earnings after that too, so.
then the 2,000 is coming off no matter what, so we're only
Correct.
working with $312,000.
Right.
Excuse me.
Because it was the 500, I would say.
What was the reason for that, having to come off of retained earnings? What was it that didn't happen?
Do you want me to explain it?
Yeah.
Okay. So we had put through for the $250,000 for engineering for the Potash Brook.
Right,
It went into the regular budget instead of an article line item, so it got returned back into retained earnings at the end of last year.
how did it get,
It went through the original warrant article stated, and then somewhere between A and C, it got into a regular account number. And because that's what was voted on, that's what had to be done. It went into the engineering line item instead of engineering and a separate article item. So we've submitted 2 new warrant articles for this, one to replenish the engineering line item this year because we're over, and the second is another article to finish off the engineering for the Potash Brook.
so who would have made that mistake?
It's been, we do not know where exactly. I can tell you where it was and how it ended up. We don't know what happened in between.
So somebody did something,
Mhm.
and was it anybody in our department? It wouldn't have been anybody in our department.
It got submitted,
So it would have been in the financial,
somewhere that we don't know. I believe we had another article with retained earnings, and they don't know if it got transposed or how, and it got sent into retained. So the account number that was voted on was the retained earnings account number. And because that's what was voted on, that's what went into, instead of it being a new account number.
Okay, so.
For like an,
the borrowing-
capital line
The
item.
borrowing went right into retained earnings.
Correct, and it went back, it went into our engineering line item, and then at the end of the year, it went right back into
Yeah,
retained
we
earnings.
returned back. I'm looking at like the FY '24, it got
Right.
returned back.
Right.
Oh, okay, we took it out of retained earnings to pay for it.
And it went to
And then it-
engineering.
Then it didn't get spent and it just.
Right, instead of it being a separate, it went perhaps because it said engineering, and when we send over a warrant article for a capital line item, we don't know the account number, so we leave it blank.
Okay, I guess we need to be more literal about what we do because people can't understand it. All right,
I think we need to look at the possible line items first to see where there's some money in the blue. Start there.
If I'm doing this math correctly, and I just want to make sure I'm following along. Shortfall projected is 359,802. There's still 312,000 in retained earnings. We don't want to deplete that, right?
no, you can't get too much lower than that,
Right.
just because the recommendation
What's DOR's recommendation?
Is to replace your single most valuable asset, which would be, I would say, a pump station.
So, that's
More
more than 302, so. My attitude from sitting right here is I think we need to look at reductions here in the operating, whether that's a capital line, the meter, all of these things that are here. I think it's a combination. I don't think the ratepayer should pay the back of all of this if we can tighten our belt a little bit here.
Right. 70.
The one line that I don't want to see on the chopping block at all is safety. Nobody that works here deserves not to have a safety budget.
Or I can't afford to lose anything on that yet, because that's also going over to Webster.
Yeah, and I, if we don't spend money on I, we spend it on processing, so it's a catch-22.
Hey, we do have that $21,000 article, though, like you said.
Correct.
So we do have $21,000 we can spend that has been borrowed previous. That's the unspent total from the projects that were done up in the Dudley Hill area.
Yes.
That-
and one other
Dudley
thing-
Hill, and then we increased and we did Susan Drive area because that was the second section because it was coming in so much less. We did all of that area up there, and then we still had 20,000 left over.
It's,
It's what it's showing now. We have to confirm because sometimes it's
Okay.
inter-office communications and when things get put in and cleared out.
I did send emails
There-
to confirm.
There is the $8,000 for the alarms that we can use on the mission systems. There is a couple other articles, one of them being for like the generators that we got put in, but there's a surplus there. That wasn't taken out as a loan. So during the springtime meeting, you can return that back to, you can put it as a warrant article and return it back into retained earnings. There isn't, but for the INI, if we took a loan out for that, it has to stay as an article from my understanding, and it has to be specific to, for the verbiage in the warrant article.
Okay, what? Our current budget,
The current budget,
so current budget, we've got budgeted $100,000 for capital. We've only spent 23% of it. There's still 84,000. I'm looking at what hasn't been spent this year that we can shave. So you cut that down from 100,000 down to 70?
it was 110, it's down to 70.
Okay. And there's still 85,000 left in that. Let's see. Of course, engineering is overspent, so. Just trying to see where we didn't.
Well, the engineering isn't overspent, but it's
Yeah.
200,000, like,
Yeah.
minus the 200 off that.
Right.
That's gonna be corrected, all that.
Correct.
Right.
And the capital, is there anything coming up that we need to spend?
You would use it on the mission if there's anything.
Finish the mission upgrades and to start, at least replace one or two of the pumps in the pumps, because they're at 20-plus years,
Yeah.
25, they're at near end of life.
What,
The whole thing.
But
Fair question.
the pump would be $30,000+.
Mr. Chairman. Fair question on the floor.
but
Hi.
Hi.
I've never attended anything, my first time. I just wanna say that I don't agree with the raising of the water and sewer rates because they're getting wicked high. And
I understand that. That's why I wanted to try to have the discussion so that folks know what we're talking about, but,
it's just that I can't really afford it and it's not fair to those who really can't afford it. You know, 'cause my water bill this past one was $293, and that's really high for me. And I'm
293?
yes,
Do you have it on you?
yes,
Can I see it? Is it, how many people in the household?
3 but 1 child.
That's high.
And I don't think we're using that much water. So
That's gonna be the average, literally, that's.
Yeah.
To give you an idea right now, so everybody understands, because this is at 1,000 usage, so this is tier 1. She's at 293.60 day, you're just shy of that.
that's about what mine is.
Unfortunately, to better explain it, while we call it an enterprise system, it sounds like it's a business. We can run it like a business, but we're still audited, and we can make a slight percentage over what we charge, because we have to have retained earnings. And we just explained is that the department, the DEP would like us to be able to replace any one of our single most valuable assets. So on the sewer side, at least it's smaller, where it's a pump station. On the water side, it's the tank, or you could argue that it's a whole new well, but a well would take 10 years. But a tank, if we lost our tank, one of our tanks, we would be in a very bad position. So unfortunately, and I have extreme empathy for you, but we still have to be able to run
Okay,
this
what-
system. But we're trying our best, in all honesty. Nobody here at this table wants to.
All right, we
But
need to.
we have to reasonably do everything.
but I feel like if it gets even higher, y'all gonna run us out of our houses, you know, 'cause we can't afford it.
Scott, they have to sign in so I know who they are.
Okay,
This sheet's right on the table.
okay, yep.
'Cause I don't know who she
I
is.
didn't want to get into citizens' comments yet, simply because I wanted to be able to be informed on where we were before we got into that. But yeah, anybody who's gonna speak will have to sign in on the roster, just so we know who's here. I'm just looking at the old article money. What's the 44,000? 2 new GRMTS article?
Is that the generators?
Those are generally.
Who the heck?
New
2 new GRMTS, two new grunts,
Generators.
generators. Okay,
But
boy,
that-
that's a really good abbreviation. Okay, 44, so there's still 44,000
No,
there.
there's not 44,000 there. These aren't what's been
No, that's been changed, 14,000. We've
Oh.
used it for generators.
Okay, so there's 14 left there. So I just want to look at I want to see what everything is.
We don't.
INI is at 21,000.
Do we know that the INI is truly at 21, or is that one we have to verify?
That
We have to verify that.
Okay.
And
I did
also we
send-
need to verify the verbiage of, and where the source money was from. It was sourced from retained earnings and go back to retained earnings. If it was sourced through a loan,
Mhm.
it has to stay in the article, and we have to use it specifically what order is in there.
I haven't received a response back.
it's shown just slightly over at 14,000 for that new generators.
I mean, the only places we can really make any difference is with capital and operating expenses. The other ones are nickel and diming.
What do we think would be a reasonable number to leave in metering if we reduce that? So that there's something there, so that sewer isn't getting so far away from water? I know that's a loaded question, I'm just,
Keep the money,
What'd you say a pallet is? How much?
I would,
30-something thousand?
I would go down to this one.
That'd be like our lowest.
I mean, that's the one that you can probably could, besides capital, and depending on how you want to work capital, would be the next one that can take the next biggest brunt as a line item for the debt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For the reductions.
so we could take, let's say 69,000 out of capital, leaving, just keeping round numbers here so I can figure this.
How much is that, Justin? 60?
69.
Just 69, that would leave
Oh, yeah,
1,000.
So, yeah.
I mean, we could take it down to 69.99, leave $1 there.
Yeah.
And then if we want to leave 20 in capital, in metering, that takes another 30 we're adding here.
The other, on the differential, very rarely on the sewer side have we ever had to pay out towards the highway. That's usually on the water. We have to bring
Yeah.
everything else.
Right.
So it's been few and far between on the differential. That's always been a placeholder, so God forbid something did happen, we had to use our crews and their equipment, we have a pay line item. We just would have to, if that occurrence happens, which it hasn't happened in a couple of years or more, is that would just have to be absorbed as an operating expense, if you will.
We could take that, so at least leave some little bit left. Not much.
So I'm just going to take the whole thing right now just to look at that. So that gives us $104,000.
104, 69, 30. Okay.
Yeah. So then,
104, yeah.
that's 104. So then we could pull, reduce operating expense. Because right now, sewer operating, what are we, about 70% through the fiscal year?
Sewer operating expense is.
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So they're right on line.
yeah, so,
We spent 74% on.
and we're at 70%,
And
so.
we're at 75%, so.
I mean, we could, without having all the expenditures in front of me, I can't tell you what's there that might not exist next year, you know?
It's mainly coming out of operating expenses is basic monthly occurrences, some monthly occurrences,
Yeah.
and
Bills and upkeeps and.
yeah, tools and
Pumping and,
basics. Yeah, nothing.
So, one of the old fiscal reports. Bear with me just
Maybe we'll
because
take some of
they're
that,
not in
maybe
alphabetical order.
20.
Sewer in FY '22. Operating expense. It was around $60,000 and they returned $2,000. 23 was near 70 and they returned 75,000 and they returned 6. And last year, this was one of the years that they put things in the wrong, somehow it shows, they had, if I remember correctly,
That was, yeah,
they had put money into that for, it was supposed to be a separate line item for.
Correct.
I can't remember what it was, but it should have been.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, and it was at 80.
I think it was 85.
I think I leveled it again, so it was at 85, and they returned over $15,000. So in the past 3-4 fiscal cycles, they've been able to return out of it, and I would say comfortably 10,000.
So
But
if-
nothing more than that.
so we're
Because
talking,
if you're thinking that we're doing the I&I and running around and anything else that's involved with it, it's gonna generate more operational
Correct.
expense. Where if this wasn't for everything that needs to be done in the sewer department and the engineering and the fixes that we need, then I would say 20, but like 10, because we're gonna have to do the jetting for the studies and the cleaning and better upkeep, maybe see if we can get some of this flow better, but we don't know what.
We did spend a lot to repair the jetter this year.
Yeah,
That would have all come out of operating.
yes.
I think,
No,
no,
it's-
it can't,
No,
capital.
Came out
Capital.
That came out of
okay.
capital, yes.
So that's the expenditure
That's
on
true.
the capital.
Anything that wouldn't be a yearly expense,
Would
Comes
come
out of
from
we're trying to
capital.
take, like, one-time purchase out of capital.
So
we can have
basically, just about all of capital that was spent on the jetter. Because the jetter expenses
Jetter,
were
a little
over
bit of
20,
truck.
were over 20 grand.
better-
And then we've spent 25 so far. So
Yeah. It would
80
just-
to 90% of what we've spent out of capital this year was for the jetter. We can
Actually, I
expect
thought-
that we won't spend
no,
that
there was,
this
there
year.
was something else that we had, and
I don't have
sorry.
the,
Okay, there's a little,
There's another
yeah.
$10,000, so that should be
All right.
capital, so there should be,
But I'm
But-
just saying that
but
what
to
we've
his point,
spent.
yeah,
we won't be spending that next year.
no.
So,
that's the idea of the
So,
capital.
okay, so yeah, we can.
Turn
so
that curve.
I've come up with $114,000 if we reduce line item expenditures here. So reduce capital to $69,999, what, we can debate what we want that.
Yep.
So I just rounded to 69,000 for even numbers, 104. Reduce metering
To 20?
to 20, and then we could reduce the differential, we could leave the differential, or we reduce operating expense to 70, and I come up with 114.
If we're trying to get the most out of it, I would definitely grab the differential, because
Yeah.
that's
So then,
just for.
to make it 119.
Just you want to keep all the safety,
Yeah.
a little off the safety, we've done a lot of safety stuff already, so, we're coming to the end of the year.
Okay.
My
so-
attitude with the safety line is, I'd like to see that the money is there, and that we don't use it. You know, back it out of the, because if OSHA shows up and says like, I don't wanna be like scrambling out, we need to go buy something, and, you know, we're stuck.
Another option would be to, if this is the correct number, and this is not against another department, but sometimes it's a little, 2-3 weeks, sometimes a month behind seeing something there. You could project and say, we're gonna return that, like, no more spending out of the capital line item, because we need that to go back into the retained earnings, because we need that again to fund the following year. So if you wanna be able to take out more out of the retained earnings, like an extra 50,000, say, listen, say, we can't spend, we have to return $50,000 from that capital line item. And then I feel comfortable saying, increase what you wanna take out of retained earnings to keep off the rates. It's almost balancing it out of this year into next year. A little bit of a backwards attack at it, but.
So if we hit those line items for 119, we're still be 240,000. Between rate increase and touching the retained earnings.
I'm missing $5,000.
Differential.
I already had that, so you had 69,000, 30,000, and 5,000 was the 104.
Right, and
And
then
then
15
the-
out of operational.
I took 15 out of operational.
Oh, 15, sorry.
Yeah, so I'd
My
reduced
bad.
operating to 70.
Thank you, that's what I needed to know. Thank you.
So let's just do this math here. So what's our shortfall now? If we do all that,
240,000?
is that what it is? Yeah, 248.02. So if you take,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
oh, yeah.
take that from the projected shortfall, so your shortfall is now 248.02.
If we went to 10%, that's still gonna leave us a shortfall.
You're still dipping into retained earnings.
Still on.
Oh,
How much do we wanna take out of, can we safely take out of retained earnings?
248.
Touching in the first place puts us in a bad position. So
Yes.
a bad position is a bad position. So I would,
We're already there.
I would say at least, if you were, at least, just because of normal cost increases and everything else, the bare minimum I would go, because the nature of what's gonna be coming down the road for sewer and any of the major projects, that it would be a 3% increase on the sewer side. Because if you look even on the water side, for all those years we didn't raise rates and didn't do a 2 to 3%, and then we had these rates that punched people in the face because we had the PFAS hit us and we had all the other projects we had to do, we wouldn't have had such a substantial rate increase. If you did the 3%, we would have had a couple of years of only like 10 plus, 10% plus or minus, and it would have affected people, but it wouldn't have affected them as harshly as it has. So at a certain point, in order to keep up with costs and everything else, you have to responsibly raise rates to keep up with the market and what we're doing. And and fix things and spend the money that you raise, so you pay for your oil changes and not paying for the new engine. And
Yeah,
unfortunately,
I know, but we can't raise the rates to cover $248.
no. That's why I only went up to the 10%. So you can see what it does and what it's gonna do.
But the question is, out of what's left in retained earnings, what can we safely, in other words, we're past safe.
Mm-hmm.
So if
What
we're
can
past,
we-
if we're
With that-
past safe,
Yeah.
then I would go with $200,000 out of retained earnings and do a 3% increase
With the reductions that we discussed, right?
with the reductions that we discussed.
Oh,
But that's gonna kick the can down the road for next year, I'm sure.
We're gonna eventually have to catch up to it, or there's gonna be borrowings that come up.
I'm gonna have to raise the rate to pay the borrow.
Yep. But we've
Debt
just had
service.
a couple of substantial ones, and if we can plan it out a little better, and plus, the studies, the initial cost of what they had to redo the sewer, they gave us the mass doing it all at once, which
Yeah.
was
What-
not feasible.
what did we budget for debt service? Unfortunately, the copy that I have with me is,
He's got, I don't
what
have.
did we budget this year for debt service?
72,000.
72, okay. 72. So that was, that's a 30%, so that went down 30% from last year. 91, 102, 72, that tells me that 102 was a mistake. All right. Oh,
You can get a big copy.
okay.
Right behind the computer.
So we're discussing the water.
So you're saying take how much out of retained
59,000.
earnings?
We have to make up,
What end do you-
sewer.
If you stay at 3%.
What? It'd be the remainder after 3%. But also, because once we get the final figures, and hopefully, when you do the vote upward, I need up to sustain the budget, so because the last time, we missed it by a couple $1,000, and you guys had to come in on
Yeah.
a Thursday morning and re-vote what you're gonna put into the budget.
We were discussing the line items in blue, we're cutting them back to save some money. Go down to kill them
For 3%. So just for clarity here, the base rate would be divided by 4. What you would see on a bill.
No, be multiplied by 4.
That's a quarterly basis.
Oh, that's a
That's
quarterly
that's a quarterly
amount.
amount.
Yes.
That's a quarterly amount, that's what I wanted to see. All right,
So the guaranteed raise would be about $13 on the base rate for the year, and then an extra 14 cents per 100 cubic feet of billable unit. So they're
So
averaging
14 on 1,000,
$1.40.
100 cubic, yeah,
100 per 100.
Times 10.
yeah.
So that's $1.40. So at 3%, it would be a net change of less than $5 per quarter. That's about $5 per quarter, that's about,
If you're at $100.
that's $6.50. So it looks like about a dollar and a half per percent. Is what you'd see increase on each quarter. Per percent, ballpark.
I won't, because everybody has a different usage.
Yeah.
I'm talking about tier one.
Well, this
If you
is
get it to
sewer
the-
only, there's no tiers.
Yeah, there's no
No,
tier.
I know, but if you're using water at the tier one rate,
If you're gonna go with the average user, then I would do the average user in your 2,500 a quarter, and or 2,000, 2,500, because
Mhm.
just because that's where, if I look at my totals, whatever else,
All right, all
most
right.
would sit there.
Okay, so what's the hit for the average user per quarter at what percent? On the bill, that's talking cash,
At 3%,
4%.
at 4%. So it's, you're
Have you,
that's $4 more just under, so it's $3.80 in the usage.
you see,
And then you have the $4, so you have $3.88, $8.10.
810 a quarter, would be under $40 for the year, right?
That's about 10.
Yeah.
So we're talking about $2. At that rate, then it's about $2, a little bit more, $2.10 per percent. That would be the increase on your bill-ish.
The average,
Yeah, if you're taking that average bill,
which is, you said 2,500?
Yeah, I'm hesitant talking averages because they're so, everybody has such a different usage and everything else.
but I'm just trying to
Just to
find
throw
something
it-
to be able to tell the public, this is what it would, because the bottom line, I know what my household will be looking for is how much is the bill gonna go up? Ish. I mean, you can't be exact because it's not exact. So we've gotta be able to come up with something that says, the average bill, just like with tax rate, when the tax rate goes up, it will affect the average bill this much per quarter.
But if we don't go with that, then per quarter, then 187 divided by 4.
46.75.
46.75. If you don't make me come to a number.
If that's for what percent?
That's me dividing the shortfall, what we need, actually, so that's what we need a year out of a house, the increase per household, so.
Well, that's for the 359.
So, I have my calculator.
Okay, so,
If you didn't, I would divide the 61,477,
Yep.
where do you see 61,000? Oh, that's at the 4% rate, all right.
yep, divided by 1926.
That's not right.
That's $3.
Divided by what?
That's $3.50. How many billable customers do we have for sewer?
1,926.
3192.
3192.
Annually,
And, well, quarterly.
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 What are you looking at?
Well, actually, no, No, that would be annual.
Yeah, because this is aggregate cost, so.
This is annual.
That's annual cost, so
Okay, so
then,
31,
so $32, you divide that by 4, $8 a quarter.
see, that's what I was looking for. What's gonna, how much is it gonna affect the bill?
I
So
can
about
tell you
$8.
The top third of our users are gonna bear the major brunt of this.
Yep.
Gentex is gonna generate most of it, along with Nichols.
Nichols.
And everything else, so unless you're gonna be able to somehow disqualify certain things, I'm very hesitant to tell some of the exact numbers over the.
We can't say exact numbers except for what the rate increase will be. But we need to be able to give folks an idea. This is about how much it may affect.
Say the average use is this, if you're as close to say 2,500 on the average use, you can expect your bill to go up by this much.
Then you take the 25 and times it by 19 cents.
Mr. Chairman.
That's $4.30.
Jen.
It's
I'll
fairly
wait
easy
till
to
they're done.
know
Go ahead, Jen.
your anticipated cost.
So my basic thought is, if you give the bottom line of, this is what the base rate will be, and this is what the percent per 100 cubic feet will be, people can look at their bill and figure it out. They have their average bills, rather than us giving a number.
All right.
Trust me, I'm the one who gets the phone calls. They're gonna
Okay.
come back and say, they said it's only gonna go up 30, or just $32.
All right, all right.
I understand what you're saying, but if you give them hard numbers, they can figure it out themselves.
All right.
And we're more than
If they
happy to
can't,
answer.
They can call me. I'm more than
Call
happy.
our office and-
All right,
Absolutely.
let's stay on topic then. So what's your recommendation then?
Well, where we stood at this point, I mean, if we're gonna go into retained earnings and drain it down, it's, doesn't put us in any more of a crisis than at 150 versus 200,000.
And where's that gonna put us next year?
The 112,000 retained earnings plus whatever we put back this year from our budget.
Which we're on target to put something back, because we've used 56% of the budget and 70% of the year, so.
But
Okay.
are any of those line items big tickets that will be taken out by the town at the
Right,
last
so
second?
did the
Yeah.
town take all their numbers yet?
I have not all of them.
Because that could be
Next, yeah.
$200,000.
Yep.
Right.
And those are the ones that are they highlighted on that one? I don't know for sure.
Well, like retirement is highlighted,
Insurance, retirement, they
Yeah.
usually come at the end. He
So.
sends me, boom, boom, boom.
Longevity.
I'm so sorry?
Worcester County Retirement.
Yes.
Why are we not paying that first day of the year, we get 2% discount?
I think we may have this year. In the past,
That's why.
he could pay it, and I don't get till I get from him, I don't take it out. Because I don't know.
We should also be doing a voucher for it.
Yes, that's usually what happens, is I will have, it's a breakdown, usually. You should be for all of them, the insurance, the everything. He can take indirects.
Right, well,
Yeah.
I know because I do it, it's Worcester Retirement, you get discounts. you get
Right.
Very well. Crazy not to take advantage of discounts. Especially on a big number.
The difficulty here is this is what you've kept.
Correct. Because I haven't been informed, so I haven't done a voucher.
Because you can't get the information from them.
Because we can't get the
Well, it's.
month-to-month information from
I don't
them.
get it monthly anymore. A couple years ago, we used to get it monthly, then we got it quarterly. Now I don't know. I've gone back and forth, and I am continuing
So,
to.
Almost all the big numbers that the town takes out are not accounted for yet, so I wouldn't count on a huge number going back for things.
Because they're all gonna come out.
Indirects, retirement, health.
That's something to discuss with the corner office. It's absolutely absurd that we have to guess at what's actually been spent,
It's,
because our treasurer collector won't give us the information.
it's not that he won't, it's that he gives it, he sends the vouchers in June for us to pay, and that's usually when you sign them. They could be moved over. I don't look at those in the revenue because I haven't received a voucher, an invoice, basically. I'm not gonna take money out till I actually have the invoice, except for indirects, which I keep forgetting. I apologize. That's on me, the indirects. Because again, I'm just so, if I get a piece of paper, I take it out.
So, going back to the current budget, we're listed at 41% expended for Webster processing. Did we not get billed?
So there's another Webster processing account that was added. Yeah, can we just-
Okay,
and that gets drawn on as, because there's two different bills that we get from Webster. So when we did the warrant article for the Webster processing, it went into a new line item. And these are things beyond my control. This is how accounting does it. And this was prior. So they get drawn out of two different accounts.
Okay.
but that's accounted for in the 891,274.
There is another account.
Where?
It's not on there because it's a capital line item, and that should be under the capital ones, and it's not there.
Okay. So bottom line is we're not getting the right information from
No,
The
bottom
folks
line
in the-
is, it's not going where you think it's going.
Okay,
When you did a warrant article, they created a whole nother, on this one, they created a whole nother,
you know.
right, unlike where they didn't, on the last time, they put it into engineering.
but they are the people that want us to spend a couple $100,000 a year to pay them to do the shit, and they're not doing it.
Excuse the language.
That's why I'm getting angry.
Okay, you can get angry, but this isn't the place for it.
Well, I'm still
Mr. Chairman.
curious about the indirects because these numbers aren't what we voted on last year.
No,
Well, I know,
they took what they
that's,
wanted.
again,
I know that's not legal because we're in charge of, what we voted on is what has to be presented.
Correct, and I don't know what they're taking this year.
they're not taking anything. What they were presented is what they got.
They had a meeting yesterday morning to discuss
Indirects.
the indirects.
I'm just saying, last year, we made it clear that we didn't agree with their number. We voted on a number that was different, and then they put in what they wanted, which isn't legal. They can't change our number.
All right, let's stay on topic. I'm sorry, folks.
So while you guys are talking about that, to give you an idea, the upper, so if you're in tier one in your bills, the upper range per quarter that you could hit for your sewer will be $6.19. If you're in tier two, the upper range that you can hit is $11.88. On tier three, you're getting into the multifamilies and to the bigger users who have other ways to recoup their money. And that starts at just over $12 and can go up from there. But if you have an idea of what, if you're a tier one or a tier two household, you're between,
And that's at 4%?
that's at the 4%.
So tier one was what again? The top range.
Top range, $6.19.
$6.19. Tier two,
$6.38 to $11.88.
$11.88.
Per
Okay.
quarter,
Per quarter, okay. And tier three,
over $12.
that's
And then
somewhere over 12, that's $12 an hour. Okay.
Tier three is only 10% of our water users, so I'm gonna assume that's roughly the same on the.
So
Yeah.
if we say that's 4%, then 25% of that is each percent. So $1.50 and
We could just throw numbers together and say.
$12 divided by 4 is
2,000.
$3.
3,000, anyone using over 3,000 is more business, more commercial, so.
I can do
1,000
$1,000.
people.
I just did
So it's
numbers.
per 1%, that's $1.50 and
Yeah,
and
And just like
approximately
usage is this,
$3.
it's gonna be this much, this.
Yeah, I can do that.
All right,
And I could probably,
that makes sense.
I'd probably break it down to every 500. Because then you give or take, like, that's 20%, so. That's easy enough, I can have that up.
Mr. Chairman, take the 119 out of the item counts. And hit indirect, retained earnings for 200,000.
If I can make a suggestion how you formulate the motion.
Yeah, I'm just trying to.
Well, we can't make a motion right now because we're in public
Or
hearing.
how you would do it.
I just want to get through the discussion of the rates, and then we've got folks here that have something to say. I'm
No,
assuming.
okay, but I'm gonna say is, the way that you'd say it is, reduce the budget by the amount stated with a 4% increase, with the remaining amount of the budget to be funded through retained earnings. That way, you guys won't have another meeting or anything else
Right.
later on, that's all.
Okay,
With the 4% increase, what is your base rate?
$4.30.
Increased by $4.30.
So it's at,
107.39, you'd
Yep.
add 430 to 107.39.
yep. And then the per 100 cubic feet will increase from $4.74.
By
93 cents. Okay, there are folks here that, you know, I'm assuming you came because you had something to say. Because
Anybody wanna go?
it's,
Oh, I guess I'll go then.
okay, just please sign in, just so
Yes,
we
sir.
know who
Sure,
spoke.
sure.
We've seen you here before, so.
Mm-hmm.
And just state your first name so I
Certainly.
can match up.
Demetrius?
Thanks.
All right, well, gentlemen and lady, I gotta say, it's very heartening to hear that, as you said, sir, that you don't want to raise rates. It's definitely a good thing, but of course, at some point, as a discussion here, conversation went on, you will be raising rates, but I think I can live with that. You said, there was a mention that the average user is around 2,500. We're about 3 times less than that. Is this the two of us? We're very careful about how we spend. It is a precious resource. We do what we can in order to save water. We use water from the gutters to water our plants, even the humidifier water. We use that. But why am I caring and sharing? Well, our last bill, just for usage alone, was around $83, just for the usage, sewer and water. Our total bill was around $273. So naturally, you can see we're concerned. And at this point, you know, once somebody, actually my wife once said, well, you want services, don't you? Yeah, of course I want services. Of course I did. But the thing is, at one point, we moved here about 2 years ago, and it already went up by about $45, I think about 12 months ago, I think.
It was 12 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 12 months.
July
It was
first.
July.
July.
It was July.
Okay,
The rates go up every July. They don't, I know folks on social media say it just went up a couple months ago. No,
Okay.
the rates change once a year.
okay. So, and now they're gonna go up again, which is fine. I think we can live with a whopping $8 per quarter and I think that's for the average user and so forth. So, I know you're trying to be careful, and also you, Mr. Dolan, you said something that really caught my attention, which is to have a little, in lack of a better term, a nest egg, just in case, which is what my wife and I did when we bought our house a couple of years ago. We had a little nest egg, just in case you have to do that. But one of my point is, I guess, what I'm trying to say is, where will this, well, it will never stop because everything increases, but, what will it be, a year or 2 or 3 now? $400, $500? This is what I'm trying to figure out. It's a rhetorical question, yes, but.
big hit on the water side, we just had to put in for the PFAS in the water, which I don't know if you've heard the chemical that's going around this country. It's a man-made chemical. It got into the water and they said, you gotta get rid of it. Well, we just spent $12 million to build the plant to get rid of it in the water side, so that's a huge bill.
Yeah.
Now they're talking the sewer part of it, where the water is treated after it's used in the sewer. They want it out of the sewer water. They're gonna want it out of the sewer water. So the sewer part's gonna get a hit, right? Because they're gonna have to build some kind of treatment at the plant in Webster to get it out of the water before they put it into the river. So we're gonna get hit with that. There's no, I would love to say there's an end in sight with
Yeah,
the
there's
money
not gonna
issue,
be
there
an
isn't.
No, I
Okay,
realize that.
and just for reference, the 200 and, our current year's budget is about 270,000.
That would be nice.
What?
No, it's like,
That's the.
Oh, total,
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
well, I'm just looking at the numbers are all goofed
I
up.
believe we only increased by like
What's the-
$40,000. The
Yeah.
problem is that we funded last year through retained earnings also.
yeah.
The base rate,
And the cost to send it through to processing at Webster is increasing by 10%.
We went from, because we got to deal with Webster, because we're John, we went from paying them $460,000 a year, what, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, that's what well, for 10 years, we paid them 400. Well, they finally said, hey, we gotta renegotiate, and we sat down with them, they're very, it used to be a battle, and now they're very open-minded. We're close to $1 million
Million.
a year to treat our sewer.
so our proposed budget is somewhere in the vicinity of 1.8 million.
Got it.
$1 million of that goes directly to Webster. No,
No ifs, ands, or buts, in other words.
that's what it
right?
costs to treat. That's what it costs to treat. The other, the 1.8, the 0.8 that's left, that's our salaries, that's our
Yeah,
expenses,
okay,
that's,
Sure.
that's the ability to do
All
business.
right,
So it's,
I understand. And one last question I have, ma'am, you mentioned something, I got a little bit lost in the back and forth. You said, what I do remember, you said that from point A to point C, something happened. So what I'd like to know is, at any point, did that directly or indirectly result in any kind of increase or contribute to,
No, it just went to a wrong account, and it got turned back to us instead of staying out there for a capital line item.
oh, okay, that's good,
So now it's going back out there.
okay.
And the term of a nest egg versus the retained earnings, to layman, it sounds like it, but I'm pretty sure that if and when DEP looks at our retained earnings being so low,
It's very low.
yeah, they're not, we're gonna get a slap for it. But there's nothing we can do about it, but they're not gonna look favorably on it in any way, shape, or form.
And it's not a nest egg for us.
No, that's why, yeah,
For
that's,
all the users,
Right,
so
right.
if we have some kind of cash sitting there, we don't have to go to the fall meeting and say, look, we're gonna put a pump station in for $250,000, we need to borrow the money, you gotta pay for it. We could take it out of retain, if that's what the nest
Yeah.
egg's for.
this is why I said, for lack of a better term, I
Yeah,
wanted
no,
to
but just so
qualify
everybody
that.
understand, like,
Yeah.
we don't really, I guess we earn a little bit of interest on it, but
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
there's pretty much names to what we have, it's gonna have to go to at some point. I mean, and the idea is, if we could have projects that we could put off for a number of years, you could save up until you did it, and then you could pay for it out of retained earnings, without having to put on the books as debt. But unfortunately, we're not in that position right now, and the idea of fixing
well, we're stripping
the
our budget.
I&I is, if we can fix the infiltration, it'll reduce how much we're sending over to Webster, which will reduce that cost, but now we're gonna incur debt for a short period of time, or expenses to be able to fix the I&I. But at least there's an endpoint
I
after you pay
see.
off the debt, I mean, but.
Okay, but we're stripping our budget down now to the point where there's going to be very little going back into retained earnings. That's only growth. The only thing that will go into retained earnings is growth, because we're stripped down to just about nothing. Okay,
That's it.
All right.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else?
Sure.
Yep.
They go back.
Yeah.
I always have. What he said, I personally don't agree with the $8 increase because it's just, to me, it's like there's not gonna be any end to it. And how high is it gonna go? You know, cause I can't afford it as it is. I'm on a limited income, especially my mom. She lives by herself and her bill is insanely high for her being by herself. And she's on a fixed income too. So, and I'm just concerned that you're eventually going to run us out of our homes because the bills keep getting higher and higher and higher.
We feel the pain.
And we
We're all on the system, so it's not that we don't feel like, hey, we're taking a buck out of our own pocket. Well, not a buck, but it's coming out of our own pocket. But the bottom line is, the bills are there. There's 1,926 people paying the close to $2 million bill to run the department.
And unfortunately, we have the regular costs going up at X percentage. And if we're running lean, our only way of being able to fund and do the projects and maintain the system is increase the costs of being attached to the system. Nobody here takes pleasure in doing any of this, and we were very cognizant last year during the water rate increases to relieve, especially the tier one, and not do a rate increase there and we funded out of retained earnings. Thankfully, a debt came off, and this year we're able to not do anything on water, not have to do anything on water. But unfortunately, it goes with everything else that's out there. Everything is increasing, everything increases yearly. Unfortunately, and we're not exempt for that. And since we can't take it and say, well, we're not gonna have X amount for profits, because we don't have a profit and not put it on our consumers, it actually has to get transferred over to the consumers, unfortunately. And we're doing our best to relieve that. But unfortunately, in this situation, even, we can't even fund it completely out of retained earnings and drain us to zero. There's no other choice. I mean, there's certain things that we have to do, and the more you neglect it and don't do it, it's gonna be more in the end. And that's what, some things that are happening lately is that because it was pushed off so long, the cost of it is exponentially higher than it was 10 years ago. And that's why you're fixing it at today's rates and costs versus fixing it back then.
Oh, what you give me here is that?
Because of that.
Unfortunately, and to be able to go up on your bill, because I saw it, yours, a quarter would be $6.19 a quarter. And while a lot of people don't look like that is a lot of money, but if you're on a fixed income, that adds up. And we understand.
Yeah, it does. And the thing is, like, every time when when the bill comes in and then there's a notice saying that it was voted to raise the increase, and I ask myself, and I ask you guys, do you not know the word no, don't increase? Because, I would like to not have an increase regardless because we can't afford it. And it's just irritating.
The problem is the bill is there, it has to get paid.
Yes,
We can't say,
But
we
we
can
can't-
say no and not pay the bill, and then what, the Webster's gonna stop treating our sewer? I mean,
I just don't like the increases all the time because it's gonna be too much. When is enough enough?
we take no pleasure as a board raising the rates, believe me. There's no, every one of us is on the system, and it affects each one of us.
I mean, we're at the point right now in this department, we were considering cutting safety for the guys that are in the hole and putting people at risk in order to be able to save money. And that's at the point where, that's how tight we have to do down to this budget. And Ideally, if we were an affluent community called Wellesley or Newton, we would just go to the point, whatever it is. And we realize the community and the cost and everything else that's happening, but there is really no other alternative, and nobody here is happy about anything else, and we're trying to minimize it as much as we possibly can.
I guess
And-
what I don't understand is what is the point of these meetings if you will override our displeasure? I don't understand why.
It's so you can have input, so we have conversations and we have people speaking to us.
Yeah, but us speaking to you clearly isn't doing anything, so what's the point? So I just don't.
No, but you, on the, I don't wanna say on the flip side, but you being here with your concerns, dropping our retained earnings down to minimal, we know it's gonna kick us into the butt next year, the year after, where we're gonna have to pay for something, we're not gonna have the money, and we're gonna have to raise the rates 2 or 3 years from now even more, because whatever, it's gonna cost more 3 years from now. So if we don't have the money today to fix something, we can kick it down the road, and it's gonna cost us twice as much.
Is it okay if I say something, or do I have to come, is it okay?
Sure,
if I-
go ahead.
if I-
I mean, the room's
You know,
small.
What you just said now, this is what happened with our roof. We could have put it off for another 2 or 3 years, but then we would have had leaks, we'd have had, so we bit the bullet, we spent, an amount of money, and that's it. You have to do it, I agree 100%
Thank you.
with what you just said, and we apply that well, we just did apply that ourselves, it's not, yeah, you are absolutely, I agree with that 100%. And another thing is, yeah, you could have said, okay, again, ma'am, I'm just saying this, and I totally empathize, let's sympathize, I empathize with you, and here's my bill, and I just said it to these gentlemen here, you know, it's $80, and we're paying, well, what I just said. With a gas company, the National Grid, a gas bill was $40. The delivery fee was $100, $150, and I said, oh, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna help you.
All right,
know
we
this."
need to,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
okay.
But bottom line is that I agree with what you said, and that's the
Thank you,
bottom
sir.
line.
All right, okay, I'm, okay,
Thank you very
thank you, Dan. Anybody, either, no, okay. All right, at this point, close the public hearing
7:43.
at 7:43. All right, what's the board's pleasure?
I recommend we doing, as we discussed, cut the budget by 119,000, down to not bare minimal, take 200 out of retained earnings, and
So it's gonna leave 112.
So I can put this in the form of a motion.
Please.
So I'd make a motion that we reduce the line items by $119,000. Raise the rate for sewer by 4%. And then pick up the balance, the shortfall out of retained earnings.
Okay.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Discussion?
You can clarify that's the base and the.
Correct. Increase the base rate and the usage rate by 4%.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
Letters will go out in the May billing.
Notice will go out in the May billing.
Yep, that it's effective for July 1st, just so
And-
everyone knows.
And I'll put together a sheet. that
Thank
we
you.
can Either post or.
And for the folks who sitting here in the room, I do apologize for my outburst earlier. It gets increasingly frustrating. And trying to think of the most
Like,
judicious way to say it. This is difficult. This is very difficult. I'm just getting to a point in my own personal life where these bills don't affect me as much as they used to, and they used to affect me much like yours do. But some of the biggest, aside from increases coming from Webster, the biggest I don't knows that we get on our budget each year come from numbers that are given to us, dictated to us by the treasurer collector. And they're amounts, I'll be honest, Medicare, group health insurance, insurances, they are what they are. We can't do much about them. One of them is indirect costs. We've been negotiating for years. Actually, we've been negotiating over the last year, been asking for it for years to look at that.
just some clarification.
We're getting to a good place with that. However, the town's tax budget is tight, to say the least. And I don't begrudge them the fact that they have so much, but there is no tax base influence on this. They're totally separate. We don't get any assistance. I got upset earlier because we pay for town services. We pay for treasurer collector, tax collector, we pay legal, we pay for that directly to the town, to the municipal budget, and there are places where we don't get what we're paying for, and it just gets me angry. But thank you for coming out tonight. We don't usually see folks who come. We get beat up on social media constantly. You folks took the time to come down here, and that is noted. Absolutely is noted that you took the time to come down here and speak your voice. And yes, your voice does matter, man. It does matter to us. I can't do anything about that, but it does matter to us. We work very hard to try to keep this thing as lean as possible.
Just for clarification, because we're an enterprise fund, we fund ourselves, but we use town services like the treasurer collector, all the way up to the selectmen. We pay a portion of every bill that comes into town. So we're paying the town of Dudley, between the two departments, over $200,000 a year to use this place.
Okay, that's where we are. There it is. No, that's the other one. Where's my agenda?
That's it.
That's it, that is it.
That's tonight.
All right. Tie and bond correspondence. Did we have anything? I don't
The only
believe.
thing that I had put in there was just an update on the pressure, the the Bates pressure.
Yes, the Bates pressure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, the vote,
Thank you.
this did get sent out to everybody, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
I had Brian print me a copy, because you weren't here.
I know.
Um,
I was at a conference.
But,
You went fishing.
No.
I mean, that's something, this is, the alternatives for, what to do with that low pressure area up in the Dudley Hill area. The way there's no action we need to take on that today, but that's something that we need to consider.
You can take a copy of that.
You can take it.
Yeah.
All right, anybody have anything else for Ty and Bond? All right, primary distribution operator update. I know the person filling that position has has come back to work, and he is filling the position. Okay, there was an ask about what was his responsibilities.
Roles and responsibilities.
Huh?
His roles and responsibilities.
Okay, yes. I know, last month we were given a copy of the job description. At least to my perspective, 310 CMR 22 is the guiding authority. We've added other things to it, but I don't know. Is there anything else? I'm sorry. My mind is toast right now. Was there anything else that? So, distribution, I know we've got distribution and treatment with the state guidelines. Where does, we know obviously the treatment includes all of the treatment plant and all of that stuff for daily responsibilities. Where does, distribution is all the pipes and gates and valves and making sure that those are all properly maintained. Where does sampling fall into that? Is that a treatment function? Is that a distribution function? Is that?
Depends on what you're saying. Bacteria would be distribution. Depends on the water quality. It's
I know, I mean, whoever samples, sometimes George will go out, sometimes Brian goes out and does samples. Sometimes Luke or Timmy will do samples.
I guess everybody together does.
But whose name needs, who's the ultimate responsibility statutorily?
sampling.
Yes.
There's,
Well, it's a primary operator, but there's sampling that he does
Right.
through PFAS or whatever, and that's, his treatment plan is designed to take the PFAS out.
Right.
He's responsible for testing PFAS. There's SOCs and
VOCs and synthetic organic compounds, arsenic.
Okay, I just can't remember what the,
It's listed on the superintendent's report, there's some of the sampling that's.
no, but what was the
Oh, you
question?
wanna know
There was a
who?
question about why this needed to come up, and I just can't.
I mean, I think it's guided by 310 CMR 22.
Correct. All right, well,
I think the original reason why, if I remember way back when you got the question, is because it wasn't George signing as superintendent on the reports. I had to sign them because I was the one who had to hold both the primaries on the treatment and the distribution. So I had, at least on the chlorine
Yep.
report, I had to sign off on.
Okay, so who signs off on it now?
It would be Luke now, because that's,
Chlorine is technically distribution.
Okay, yep,
They don't consider it treatment,
right.
which is stupid, but.
You would think.
Yeah, I'm adding any chemical is treatment. That by nature of the beast treatment is treating. But, okay. But I can see where it's pushed to the distribution side. I mean, I'm just trying to wrap my head around why that came up. But, all right, budget review, budget and revenue. All right, water's on top, so I guess we'll take that one first. We're at 75%. It looks like overtime is below that. That's good. So electricity's well above. Is that moderating now because of the change in rates, electric rates?
I don't think we had enough time yet to really.
But I mean, will that start to?
It should,
It
because
should.
your new rates took effect in
No.
November, December.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've only got January, February, March bills in at the new
And
rate.
there's been an issue with, I don't know if any of you had it at home, there's an issue with National Grid where they sent out bills, but the bills, like, all of a sudden I'm getting 6 months' worth of bills at once. Are you seeing that?
Yeah,
too?
I have,
Okay,
yeah.
And so you're going through trying to figure out which bill is the correct amount, and it's,
Oh, okay. Well,
it's a little,
that's
it's a little kerfuffling, whatever, whatever. It's been a long day.
it's longer than.
to give you a better idea on the overtime, though, we reduced that down, because that was because we had funded it for the, construction and whatnot.
Right.
That would, like, we would be roughly where we should be if we were at the current funding level. So we're pretty much, for the next fiscal year,
And there's something else that's gone over. Retirement is over by, well, that's because of, we were given bogus numbers. Insurance, we were given bogus numbers.
Leak detection.
Leak detection, why did leak detection go so far over?
No.
Did it go?
It's budgeted at 6,000, we spent
Oh,
10,000.
we only do it twice a year, so it's not a monthly bill. It's,
But it's still what?
It went over.
We're still overspent by $4,000.
Mm-hmm.
it's not, I'm
We
looking at
bud,
the ledger, that's why.
we budgeted 6,000, we expended 10,000.
It's,
And there's a lot, again, there's a lot of money in those
it's like
capital.
3,500 twice a year, and then there was some other extras.
So,
So,
It should be a standardized,
no, because, well, actually, the locating,
Mm-hmm.
you know, those added locations to identify pipes and stuff, is that taken out of that?
Mm-hmm. It's all leak detection.
Then that's why.
Yep.
okay. But, you know, I just, keep to, I mean, what the bottom line is, we've spent 44% of the budget, but we're at 75%. Wow. Is that correct?
Yes, because again, the insurance and all that.
Okay, that hasn't come up
Yep.
yet.
They had a huge number of all those.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I know, and that's,
That's gonna be my
what are we paying for?
project for the next month.
well, we should see a pretty good return to retained earnings, because when we had to rush for the fall town meeting and make sure we gave over what numbers we projected for to balance.
Mhm.
Figuring that it's gonna go back into retained earnings anyways, and, we have the correct debt numbers now. So that's gonna be a little reduced, so.
The capital, all those capital lines, it's 1.5 million
We're working on
capital.
trying to, is that the bottom line, the bottom
The
ones?
bottom line is
We're-
1.5 million, yeah.
Okay. we're working on trying to straighten out the capital ones.
Just work on, some of those are the PFAS plants,
Yeah.
okay. Those, a
Because-
lot of that should have been expended by now,
Well, that's something that Brian and I are working on.
okay? And that's because it isn't reported from,
That's because it varies on the revenue and the PFAS, it comes in, but we don't get notified, like the SRF. I don't get notified when it comes in. So
okay.
now Jeff Faulkner had started, which has been he notifies me of the drawdown, so I can assume that that's coming in. So
Okay, yeah.
trying to work that through that way. And we've
Okay.
been working with Sarah to try to clean up.
Any questions on the water budget? Sewer budget? Sewer budget, bottom line is, I don't know, because it's goofed up. But from being at 75%, the secondary operators go on high because we've got two people in that line item. But just
It'll-
draw out of the main operator line to fill it.
Yep.
Yeah, they're taking out the wrong spot from Mike, there was some confusion there. But since it all pay line items. you
It's
can
gonna
use it.
pull all together.
Fuel is really that low?
No, well, I haven't put this month's in, but yes.
Well, I mean, this month isn't gonna be
No, No.
30%.
no. It's been, well, and again, you only had one person in sewer for a while.
Yeah, that's true. And retirement and engineering is
Yeah.
blown up because of the whatever. Okay, all right. Any questions on sewer? And then the sewer, it's gonna be really important to get those capital lines, because the only capital we should have right now is I&I. Anything else, any of the rest of those, figure out where that money came from.
That's
And
what
if it
we're-
came from retained earnings, push it back.
That's what we're
Well,
working
we're
on.
gonna use-
And if it hasn't been,
The
then
alarm
use
one
it.
will use the fund to cover the emissions.
Right.
Right.
Use it, spend that, so either spend it down or push it to retained earnings so that we can eliminate those.
What, for the emission systems, we have, out of the 12, we have 5 left to do.
Yeah, we've been seeing vouchers come through. Those are the vouchers for LaFleur?
Yes,
Mhm.
and there are 5 left, I believe it also Tanner Road's in there, so that's actually, they're 4,200 apiece.
Yes, I was just gonna say.
And so plus 200, so out of the metering and plus, what? Installed. And with that other little alarm thing that's been sitting there since 2015, it says for alarms and the verbiage of the article from retained earnings, it gives us, we can use, we'll
So it's
spend.
9,200, that's almost two of them.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, use it. Okay, any questions on the budgets? Revenue, of course, the revenue report, the outstanding amount is just because we don't have eyes on how much is paid. It just shows up what. I don't get either, but. Actually, I spoke at the conference, at the ECU Center last Wednesday with a gentleman from Vadar. Did you see him?
I spoke with him.
I told him that you may come and talk to him. Hopefully, we can find a way to, if we can't get the amount, the stuff that there are ways that we can get eyes on it.
I need access to the other apps, and at this time, I'm not being allowed that.
Yeah, they're not gonna give you that.
Nope.
I understand that, but,
Sarah's working with us on that as well to get access.
okay.
Who's not giving you access?
Well, they won't because.
They won't because it's-
parts of the general ledger.
That's general ledger and stuff like that. They're not gonna give it, they're not gonna give anybody access to that.
When you do, like billing, anything you bill for, you do a commitment,
Yes.
so can we track the commitments?
Yep.
If,
At least that, we know what we billed, and what
And
we
that's-
expect to get. for revenue.
Right, and that's what we've been, and I can only tell you what comes in every month, but I don't know if that's on old, you know what I mean, where it
Yeah,
goes.
'cause you have these 150,
what would,
2,000.
is there a way in the system that if I wanted to get my extra exercise and I wanted to come up 3 flights of stairs instead of 2, to pay my bill?
I don't have the POS system.
And she'd have to,
Well, I get that, but I just.
I don't have
is
access
there-
to the
you don't have
PO.
access to that?
Oh, excuse me, I have access to the POS system to turn money in to do my turnover, but that is it. I don't
Okay, so
have-
that's how you would turn it over?
Right, but I don't have any, I don't have access to mark a payment on the account. I don't have the ability to make a payment on an account. I only can see what's been done.
Okay,
I wonder if we could look into a lockbox. You have it
Okay.
paid, we can send the bills out and have payments go to the lockbox. Lockbox would process them, send them to the bank account. We could probably get a report from that. And most of them, or at least some of the banks will, as long as you're depositing money into their bank, they'll waive the fees for those lockboxes.
I'm just wondering if there's a way that we can, if we're not gonna get the reports that we need
That's
to
what
be
I'm saying.
informed, then what do we need to do it ourselves?
But if we do it through a lockbox,
And we can reduce what
we
we
could say we should be
have to
able to.
depend on others for.
Well, we should be able to reduce the person that does that collection now, because it's being collected by a third party and deposited.
Right,
We
So we
have to
should be
check
able
the
to
way
okay.
reduce.
the
the
bylaw
potential.
states that the collector will collect all the money. He collects it.
I don't know that that's a bylaw, I believe that's just,
I don't know,
believe
that
that's
was
just
something we have
practice.
to check into.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you ever collect money in the past
no.
at the water? I just was curious.
Oh, I don't know.
You have
Um,
hundreds, I doubt it.
Yeah.
I figured it
I
was.
don't know that anybody's ever,
That'd be the old shoebox routine.
yeah, it would be going back that far, yes.
Okay.
If we get to that point, we'd probably be better off just looking at being a district as opposed to part of the town.
Might be cheaper.
You're right.
Okay, yeah, we just put the office down at the water plant.
Really? I just got rid of Brian.
We'll give you a better one.
Just see which direction I get the
Now we build another bathroom now?
daggers, yeah. All right, budget review, anything further on the budgets? Old business,
I got nothing.
superintendent's report.
I mentioned before, sewer. You guys know well, it's a big rainstorm we had, it took advantage of it. We had Ty and Bond come out, Paul came out, and a few others. We had everybody out there opening manholes, trying to trace down the infiltration, and boy, did we find some. Patterson Ave is not good, and we found that, so that has to be cambered. And it may have to be emergency lined at some point because it's also affecting the pump station there. It's running nonstop. It's filling the trough, sucking in, filling. So we're gonna be cammering that, I think, next week. Hopefully there's some breaks and some nice weather to play around. The other infiltration areas were down Chase Ave, down towards Ethan Allen, and there was a lot of water, clean water going through there. Paul took pictures, did some measurements, things like that. May have to start looking at putting some kind of, I don't know if he was talking about flow meters or what, but we haven't really got to that point yet. But he's taken all that information that he did do, trying to analyze some, but we know there's issues coming down from the Oxford Ave area, down French River side, and from the interceptor coming down over here to Chase Ave, down towards the plant, so.
Over here, gets it from Marty's, right?
Yeah, that, and then it also, it's probably, it's attributing to the backup that's going on, that go up to Progress Ave and that, and then going on to that manholes over there by the
Does
city.
You said, where did you say that you're getting water in?
Patterson,
Patterson Ave,
Yep.
does that go into the,
yeah, it goes down
goes
too.
into that
yeah.
interceptor,
Yeah.
okay?
So that's a primary, he wants that, he says that's one of our primary things we need to start looking at and addressing, so we'll be starting that, Cameron, shortly. See what we come up with the, over
I
there.
don't know, we paid someone to come in and look at it and tell us that, oh yeah, you got more water coming in, oh,
Actually, I've got the Patriot pump.
Patriot Pump came in there. We were having issues with it because they were monitoring that throughout the weeks and it was getting worse, so. And then that's when they started leading into the problem. And then, of course, with the rain, that helped with everything when we analyzed it all.
Okay, so, no, go ahead. All right, we'll finish the report and then we'll go on to these.
Yeah, so
Any question on the sewer report?
if we have anybody, I mean, you get sewer operators that are out checking the pump stations, are they keeping track of the hours, anybody tracking hours? And then rainfall to say, hey, the hours are going up X amount every time it rains?
we tracked the amount of times, how much the stations ran, the pumps have ran, so that gives us, yeah. It gives us an indication if there's something going on, or if a pump has failed, or another one's coming on more than it should. So everything should be evening out, but we haven't had a lot of rain until that last storm a couple weeks back, and that was a big help to us to see what's really going on. So, you guys know about the water side with all the main breaks we've been having and all that, and pretty soon we might as well just connect the dots. I mean, we're already doing that now. They're getting more numerous. So, Brian and I can't figure anything on the pump station sides that's causing pressure pulses or anything like that.
So there was the thaw, and I think it finally let go, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a bad winter for freeze thaw, so.
You know, brittle mains, brittle swampy soil, that's bad for AC pipe already, so that's all it's.
Any questions on the superintendent's report? Board comments? I asked for one voucher to be held, and I pulled another one, but this is the actual voucher. Kennedy Recycling, we've sent a number of truckloads of stuff out there.
Yep.
Is any of that, any at all, not even a scoop, is any of that from the project over here?
No. Matter of fact, they're taking some of the leftovers with them when they're
This-
grinding it all up.
this
No,
is all-
our stuff that's in the driveway, all the slop, garbage, pipes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, I
Absolutely
just-
not.
I just saw-
I can't. I gotta keep our place open. I can't. You know,
All right.
we're inundated with it.
All right, I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure none of it was
No.
coming from down below. And there was a voucher here, there's a voucher here for Patriot Pump. And it says here, shut-off valve seized, noticed excess infiltration coming in, causing system to not keep up during heavy rainstorms. In order to clean pot, we'll need pump truck on site. To me, that sounds like they opened the lid, they looked down, they saw that it was full of water, and said, oh, you need a pump truck. Aren't we paying two guys to be able to do that?
Well, two guys to do what?
To open up,
inspect it?
to inspect, oh, look, oh, yeah, we're getting infiltration, we need to do something.
Well,
I'm just wondering why, with $200 basically told us, oh, you got infiltration, you need a pump truck.
That's an injection pump. That's difficult to work on, and you have to know what you're doing with that. Those guys don't know.
I'm not saying anything about working on the pump, I'm just saying.
No, it's more involved than that. Well, even I'm not totally versed in that pump.
Was there a need for work to be done on the pump, or was it just overwhelmed by infiltration?
No, we were gonna take the top off and go and see if there's anything inside of the pump itself, inside of the, I call it the pot, and we couldn't even get the thing to shut off. So they tried it with bars and they were gonna break those shutoffs. So that has to be serviced too, just like anything else in it, of the other pumps. So we're gonna have what do you call it, Slims out there doing the other stations too, so they can do that.
That's
when
an
we do
active,
that.
that's the active
Thank you.
voucher.
Are you close to finishing? Because I need to text Sam to come back.
10 minutes.
Okay,
I just have one other thing.
No, that's fine.
I have one other thing.
I'm just getting ready.
We have been
Thank you.
kicking the can down the road, so to speak. I don't think it's anything anybody's wanting to do or not wanting to do, but George's review. We need to get that done. I'd like to see if we can't schedule a date. Have everybody do their review, and then we'll schedule a date for a meeting. Unless there's discipline or there's some very strict needs, no. It has to be an open meeting, so I want to schedule a meeting. I'm thinking 2 weeks from tonight, with one thing only, and that's to take care of the review. We can sit down, compile it all together, we have George with us, and just, this is what was that, and then put together the final draft off of what we come through. Okay, is there?
I'm not available on the 23rd, if that's what you're
Okay.
looking at.
All right. Does next week work for anybody?
I can't do next week.
No, that's right, you put off. Is there another night of the week? I want to get this done. This has been kicking, I mean, when were reviews supposed to actually have been done?
Well, you're supposed to start in January.
We're now in April, and
Yep.
This is one place where
You
we
did
have
mine.
not been good. Historically, we've never gotten it done.
They
That's
were
because, that was because that
Because it
got
got
put
kicked
over.
down the road.
That got kicked down the road because of what was going on a year ago. I mean, there was stuff going on a year ago that,
Are you on the 22nd, Tuesday?
Mondays and Tuesdays, typically not good for me, but.
I mean, if it's short, I mean, maybe do it Thursday, just.
at this point, I'll make any night work, just to try to get it done.
And it shouldn't take that long.
It shouldn't take long. We go through it question by question, compile it all, it'll be a final draft that we just have to have
How's the
signatures
Thursday
put on
work
it.
for you guys? Thursday the 24th?
Right now I can.
That's,
What's that?
Right now I can.
Okay.
no, I mean, yeah, I know, there's always,
That's, yeah. April.
that's getting close to
Yeah.
graduation.
Yeah, April in higher ed is not a,
April 24th?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can make it. I have a scout meeting that night out in, no, it's only Webster. But it's not, I don't have to go to that anyway, so.
What time?
6:30?
6:30? So, your mission, should you choose to accept it, I said that today to somebody, the kid at work, and he had no idea what I was saying. Is to get, if you haven't done it already, to get, to go through that review. We got last year's, which was only 6 months ago, but, and then this year's, to complete this year's. And then we can finally put that to bed next, on the 24th. Okay, anything else?
I'm texting her.
Are we going to reach out to Abrams, or are we going to just deal with it?
No, we
No, that
gave
just was so you
him,
had it.
the last meeting, we looked at it, we're still looking at the,
Right.
fire protection offset. We're not sure where that's gonna rest, but we put together a number using the current fire protection just to get the budget filled. But, no, that's still ongoing.
I can reach out to him to see how
Yeah.
the other side received it.
That was my question.
From what was said Monday night, that,
But the number we put in for fire protection is based on,
that's based on the years of, what we've been putting in plus 2.5%. $15,000 plus 2.5%, that's been
Okay,
what has been for the last 10 years.
but this year we came up with a,
That is still under,
Yeah,
that
Yes.
is
the
still
new
under
methodology.
negotiation.
Yes.
right,
Yep.
That's the only thing that's still under negotiation. Everything else seems to be pretty well, but I did hear the word placeholder mentioned during the selectmen's meeting, and I also heard, but they did vote on this budget, but the word placeholder was used, the words placeholder was used twice.
Mhm.
So, I don't know. We'll see. But, that's, you know, it could go to the town meeting floor, but I hope it doesn't. We'll, their next budget meeting is next Monday. Next Monday and then 2 weeks. The 14th and the 28th, I believe, were the two dates.
There may be another meeting in between, I heard today.
Okay, but that's what they
Yep,
announced during Monday's meeting.
yep, there may be another one.
All right.
Motion to adjourn?
right, thank you. Second,
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right, we're out of here.